Surrounded by the darkness of the battlefield, the young man holds his head while screaming that his eyes are failing him. Peeking through his fingers, the hero tries to find a spark of light, but the shadows are quickly taking over his vision. Standing alone among the fallen warriors, the survivor realizes with horror that he cannot see anything around him anymore. Blood flows down his face as the protagonist stays silent while processing the total destruction of his entire group. Collapsing onto the cold stone floor, the boy feels completely defeated by the weight of this tragic situation. Crawling through the dirt, the warrior desperately searches for something to hold onto while his strength starts to fade. Trembling with fear, the fighter looks ahead with a shocked expression as he senses a familiar presence nearby. Reaching out with his wounded hand, the youth hopes to touch the object that is standing right in front of him. Gripping the handle, the descendant recognizes the weapon and realizes this is the jade sword that belonged to his father. Pulling the blade from the ground creates a sharp sound that breaks the silence of this lonely and dark place. Using the sword for support, the swordsman slowly stands up and begins to search for his family among the bodies. Touching the face of a fallen man, the wanderer feels a deep pain while confirming that his loved ones are gone. Moving his hand with desperation, the kid continues his search because he needs to know who else was left behind. Finding another person on the ground, the son recognizes his mother, who never even joined any martial arts world. Seeing her there, the orphan realizes that the enemy showed no mercy even to those who were completely innocent. Looking at the scene, we see a woman in red clothes who just lost her life in a very sad way. While standing over a boy, the three scary men laugh about how he is such a good grandson. Searching for answers with blood on his face, the young man asks who these people are. Holding a big blade, the scarred warrior wonders if this is the kid whose eyes were ruined by his boss. Staring with pure rage, the hero feels the pain in his head as he tries to see his enemies. Visualizing the monster named Fei Huang, the survivor promises that everyone there will pay with their lives. Flashing back to 3 days ago, the great sword sect of the Zhou family was still standing tall. Without warning, an evil group attacked the palace during the night and started a huge fire everywhere. Fighting for their lives, the guards shout for someone to send a signal to get help from other groups. Although a bright light shot into the sky, not a single ally came to save the falling school. Arrayed for battle, the sect leader and his 2 older sons prepared to defend their home until the very end. Despite being known as the strongest in the entire world, the heroes faced a massive army of shadows. Shattered on the floor, the famous sign of the school shows that everything was destroyed in one night. Grabbing a student by the neck, a villain ignores the cries of those trying to save their friends. Jumping onto the roof, a giant man mocks the group because their famous name could not protect them. Shouting like a maniac, the buff enemy asks how the boy wants to die today. Quickly preparing a special move, the young warrior uses his family sword style to fight back. Within a single flash, the protagonist takes down everyone with his powerful one-eye lotus technique. Since the situation is bad, he tells the others to guard the gate while he heads to the back mountain alone. Because they were saved, the soldiers bow and thank Master Jinshin for his help. High on the rooftops, the boy moves fast while fire burns in the distance. While worrying about his family, he hopes his father is safe and rushes to find his mother. Suddenly, a creepy voice calls out to the kid and asks where he is going in such a hurry. Laughing like a crazy person, the new enemy says this is no time to be distracted. With his weapon held high, the hero barely blocks a massive punch from the scary giant. After sliding across the roof, the fighter realizes the opponent is way faster than he expected. Even though he is tired, the young master tries to figure out a way to win this tough battle. Grabbing his hilt tightly, the protagonist decides to strike first to get the upper hand. Once he jumps high, the hero uses his special style again, but the enemy seems ready for it. Showing a nasty smile, the villain says the boy fell right into his trap. Suddenly, the warrior lunges forward since he is willing to trade wounds just to get a clean hit on his target. Glancing at the hilt of the weapon, we see some strange small bags that are tied tightly near the guard. A massive spark erupts from the contact while the enemy uses a hidden trick to gain the upper hand in this duel. Staring in pure shock, the young hero realizes there is gunpowder involved as the opponent charges with a wild grin. Everything goes wrong instantly because the explosion catches the fighter off guard and leaves him vulnerable. Agony fills the air when his eyes get ruined during that brutal encounter from his dark and painful past. Smiling like a total creep, the boss of the organization named Mo Shui enjoys watching the suffering of others. Standing over the fallen warrior, the villains tell him to seek revenge as a ghost if he somehow dies right now. Mocking his current condition, the massive thug calls the boy a blinded cripple who has no hope of surviving. Bringing down the giant blade, the attacker intends to end things quickly and calls it a release from this world. Amazingly, the protagonist blocks the heavy strike with his own sword despite not being able to see anything at all. Sweating from the surprise, the big guy cannot believe a blind person actually stopped his powerful attack. Turning his back, the young man remembers that he has already lived through this same kind of darkness before. Back in the past, his older brothers discuss a special training while one of them asks if this is really okay. Wearing a shady look, the sibling says that staying in the cave for 3 full days is the only way to get strong. Searching for his siblings in the shadows, the young boy remains trapped while wondering where his family could be. Feeling the freezing air and the heavy gloom, the small warrior struggles to understand his current situation. Deciding that he won't give up easily, the child realizes that waiting for the end is not an option for him. Slowly moving through the narrow tunnel, he uses his hands to feel the cold walls and find a way out of the pit. Tears almost fall from his eyes when the darkness starts to feel like a heavy weight pressing against his chest. Suddenly he finds a huge chamber filled with ancient weapons and a single glowing blade standing in the center. Walking into the secret cave, the protagonist understands that every stone and blade will now show him the way. Standing before the legendary weapon, the boy prepares to grasp his destiny and change his fate forever. Thrusting into the ground, the sharp steel starts to guide his movements and share ancient secrets with the kid. Surrounding the hero, many red eyes appear in the dark, yet he learns to sense their presence without using his sight. Training hard every day, the young swordsman develops a sharp instinct that goes beyond what any normal person can see. Slashing through the void, the fighter masters a unique style that allows him to survive in the most dangerous places. Striking with precision, the main character hits his target and proves that his new skills are truly effective. Holding his side, a bandit looks down at his injury and realizes that the kid might be a bigger threat than expected. Shocked by the counterattack, the two villains wonder if the boy is actually blind or if he just got very lucky. Surrounding the fighter, the thugs mock his blindness but stay cautious since he is a descendant of the legendary Zhou family. Using the special sword pupil technique, the hero gains dynamic vision and adjusts his strikes with extreme speed and precision. Warning his companions, the red-haired leader tells everyone to stay focused because they cannot underestimate a blind enemy. Rushing forward at the same time, the group of villains prepares to strike while the protagonist stays in his battle stance. Focusing his remaining senses, the young master listens to the vibration of the ground and prepares for the incoming onslaught. Tracking the noise, the warrior identifies 3 sets of footsteps moving through the area to find a way to trap him. Sensing the movement, he notices 2 heavy steps coming from the larger attackers who are trying to overwhelm him with power. Detecting a third presence, the boy hears 1 light step which belongs to the faster leader and he prepares to counter it. Perceiving a sudden threat, the blind fighter realizes a long weapon is flying toward his head and he reacts instantly. Cutting through the air, the spear strikes with force, but the protagonist uses his ears to predict the exact path of the blade. Stopping the attack with ease, the young man surprises the leader who cannot understand how his advance was blocked so easily. Remembering the ancient family manual, the boy follows the secret Zhou style to handle multiple opponents without getting hit. To defeat many with few, the swordsman follows a unique path that allows him to control the flow of the entire battlefield. Splashing liquid into the air, the fighter creates a distraction and uses the drops to track his enemies and finish the fight. Swinging his blade with power, the hero executes a perfect slash and cuts through the defense of everyone standing in his way. Splashing liquid ignites as the number 1 step of the plan begins in the middle of the hot flames. Surprised by the move, the big man realizes the goal was the scent of the wine flask all along. Standing firm among the fire, the swordsman decides to block one path to stay safe from every side. Moving fast for the step 2 part of the strategy, the hero swings his blade with total focus. Tossing the weapon high into the dark sky, he creates a distraction to mess up their teamwork. Watching the flying blade with a grin, the bad guy thinks this is just a stupid mistake. Leaping from above for the phase 3 part, the hidden attacker believes he finally has the upper hand. Reacting instantly, the young fighter blocks the heavy strike while sparks fly from the cold metal. Pretending to be vulnerable, he lures the enemies closer because he wants them right where he can hit back. Gritting his teeth in pure anger, the bald warrior feels like things are going wrong for him. Seeing the sword fly, the enemy realizes the hero already knew where the attack would land. Grabbing the hilt firmly, the boy notices the scratch is very light and won't slow him down. Holding both weapons ready, he prepares to take down the group one by one to win this fight. Striking with a powerful kick, the protagonist sends his opponent flying while the guy coughs in pain. Looking around, the hero confirms that only the guy with the saber actually has the scent of a killer. Looking down at the fallen body, the men realize the person is dead while a huge fire burns behind them. Searching for the escapee, the group realizes the kid hid in the dark woods, so they decide to split up to hunt him down. Walking quietly through the dense trees, the red-haired fighter looks around while trying to find any sign of the target. Hidden in the shadows, a voice suddenly speaks and calls out to the man, which makes him stop his search instantly. Turning his head quickly, the martial artist stares into the darkness while trying to spot who is talking to him. Revealing himself in the middle of the path, the young boy holds two swords and asks if they were looking for him. Observing the wounded teen, the red-haired enemy notices the blood and says the boy must want to die for showing up. Realizing the situation, the man notices the trap and understands the kid led them into the trees on purpose. Standing firmly, the protagonist explains that long weapons are useless in the forest and gets ready to fight. Dropping his giant spear to the grass, the warrior decides he does not need it since he can win with his bare hands. Lunging forward with a crazy smile, the opponent attacks while saying he can beat a blind person without any tools.